How's that old saying go? It's better to ride a slow bike fast than to ride a fast bike slow. Like most conventional wisdom, that's crap. It's better to ride a fast bike fast. But barring that, you can't always have a fast bike. It's better to start off on one of these lightweight naked bikes that we're testing here today. All 5 of us, including our old friends Tom Roderick and Tai Long Lee, who actually have real jobs, but we bring them back to Mo now and then to help us test. So we got 5 of these things ranging in price from the $4,600 Yamaha MT-03 up to the $5,700 KTM Duke 390, and kind of all points in between. We also got this Fartpillin 401, which is a Husqvarna, which is now owned by KTM, as you know. So it's got the same little 373cc thumper. It's an excellent little motor. The BMW G310R is powered by I think it's a 313cc double overhead cam liquid cooled thumper also. The Kawasaki Z400's got the biggest engine, 399cc parallel twin liquid cooled, and the Yamaha is a lot like the Kawasaki, but it's only got 321 cubic centimeter parallel twin. So they're all pretty good. Well, when it comes to these little bikes though, when you've only got 30 or 40 horsepower, every horsepower matters. So there's kind of a big difference between them, more than you might suspect. We totaled up our scorecard last night, 5 bikes. What finished last? It was the BMW. I was going to say, does anybody have anything nice to say about the BMW?
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit to say, Tom. What were you just saying?
The BMW has the best ergonomic package out of the group. I had to do the freeway trek home and back on this guy, so it was easily 100 plus miles. And there's a buzziness coming out of that single for sure. You can feel the kind of datedness of that engine. But outside of it, yeah, I mean, the seating is really nice. It's comfortable. It's wide. It's narrow enough. Reach to the bars is good. You know, for a taller guy like me, even to the foot pegs, you know, there's enough room. I was comfortable. So yeah, I mean, kudos for that. I mean, I really, you know, if I had to spend a lot of time on one of these bikes, it might be the BMW.
The brakes aren't the worst here. The suspension isn't the worst here. But there is something about the BMW that kind of spoils the rest of it, right, Troy?
I was taught that if you don't have anything nice to say, that you probably shouldn't say it at all. So I really should keep my mouth shut about this BMW. But it is my job to talk about these things, and so I'm going to just put it out there. The engine in this BMW is by far the worst engine in this entire test. Makes the least amount of horsepower and torque. You're just wringing this thing's neck for all it's worth.
If you tuck, you can get to 85.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well,
it is
there you
great
go.
from 0 to 30. It's actually pretty brilliant. Feels really good. Then you hit 30 and it's kind of game over.
I think you guys are being a little harsh. I saw 96 indicated on it on level ground.
Yeah, but how long did it take you to get there?
It took a while, but
You were pointed downhill, right?
it'll cruise all right at 85 or 90, but it's almost tapped out up there, and it's kind of fuzzy up there.
I went over the ton the other day when we were doing those high-speed passes.
Downhill?
Yeah.
That's right.
101 to
Downhill
be
counts.
exact.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, while whoever was riding this bike was doing that stuff, everybody else on all the other bikes were way ahead, stopped with their helmets off, waiting for you to catch up.
No, because I went first and I made you guys go behind me.
Point being, I think we can all agree the engine of the BMW really lets this bike down because it's hard to get out of your own way. You don't really have that power to just squirt out of a really sketchy situation.
You know, but with that said, I think that actually makes a great beginner bike.
If you're totally
first bike.
like brand new to riding, never touched anything on 2 wheels before, maybe.
Or if you're a big person, I mean, it is one of the more open cockpits out of all these. You know, the KTM's pretty good for that too, but this one's, you know, set up nice.
It's really comfortable. The seat's really nice.
I think we kind of summed it all up in on our scorecard. We do grin factor down at the bottom, and the BMW scored a 32% in grin factor. That might be an all-time low.
Yeah, that is by far the lowest score we've given to any motorcycle we've tested.
It's like we always say, ridden by itself, If you don't want to go out and ride with a bunch of other people like maniacs, like we always wind up doing, it's not a bad little bike for getting around town. For commuting, probably gets great gas mileage. We'll put all that in the spec chart that'll be online.
Can you say one nice thing?
The red is awfully nice. It's a nice shade of red on this frame. The wheels are cool.
The
wheels. So there you go. There's something nice. It's got stainless lines. There you go. And adjustable levers.
What was our 4th place finisher, Ryan?
I believe it was the bike that you're holding up right there.
The Yamaha MT-03?
That's the one.
MT standing for Masters of Torque. It's hard to be that when you got 321 cc's. But it does nice enough job. It does its best against a company that's pretty much bigger than it. It's like if you're on a 321 cc here, it's kind of like riding a 750 when the new R1 just came out or something. It's going up against leader bikes. But I feel like this one's kind of the sport tourer of the bunch almost. I think it's the biggest, heaviest one, and it's easiest to spread yourself out upon. Might be a little softer of suspension when you're going down the road.
You know, when I first got on the bike, I thought it was the Kawasaki because the engine is so smooth, and Kawasaki's the ones I've ridden tend to be really smooth. I really vibe with them nicely, right? So I got on the bike and I thought, oh, this feels really good, and it's got a little bit of kick, and it revs up nice. It revs up high and it's nice and smooth. And then I looked down and I thought, oh man, it's not the Kawi. This is actually good for the. It was impressive that it was the Yamaha. I thought it was comfortable. It's got decent ergonomics. The brakes were good. No complaints on it, really. It just kind of runs out of juice at the top end, but it handled really well. It had it over on the edge, and it felt good.
It's got these really narrow bars, though, that you gotta get used to.
And I'm a small guy, and they felt narrow to me, so that might be something. But the seat height is really low, which is good if you're a beginner or short-legged like me. It's nice to be able to flat foot a bike for the first time in ever, kind of. So, which is also another great thing about the BMW, is that for someone who's starting, that you can actually flat foot it if you're blessed with short legs.
I said it's the heaviest bike here, but it's still only 371 pounds with 3.7 gallons of fuel in it. So it's really easy to go around in parking lots and push it around your garage if you're lucky enough to have a garage. And just a real friendly around town motorcycle. It could be a good commuter. It's not, it's not blowing the doors off anything except the BMW, which made 32 horsepower. This one makes like 35 or 36 with a few more pound-feet of torque. I think this one's up to 20 pound-feet of torque. So, we're heading in the right direction.
I actually found the riding position kind of cramped. It's not so much that it's cramped up, but you kind of don't have a lot of room to move around the seat if you're out riding like a maniac in the canyons. You don't really have much room to move around. But as far as just kind of that sit up and bag riding position, it's pretty comfortable.
And our number 3 lightweight naked bike for 2021 is
the Kawasaki Z400.
Kawasaki Z400. Let's hear it for the Kawasaki. The Z400 makes the most horsepower here.
It's like 43.
Makes 43 horsepower, so it makes 7 or 8 more than the Yamaha, and it makes a big difference. So it makes 25 some pound-feet of torque too, and that makes a huge difference between being able to get out of your own way, or not get out of your own way, but in acceleration and performance, it starts to feel like a sport bike.
And like a sport bike, it doesn't really deliver the punchy power that the singles do. You have to kind of rev it a little bit up into kind of the mid-range and top end. But once you get there, it takes off comparatively.
Yeah. And of course, it's geared a bit shorter too, because it revs on to 11,000 RPM. On that one, I saw 112 miles an hour. Don't tell anybody. But so it scoots along pretty good. It's got a couple of cheap components. The two piston sliding type front brake calipers, not the best deal. It's the only bike with a not upside down fork, which probably doesn't make a lot of difference in performance, but it's not as cool to look at some of the other bikes. Stuff like that. They cheaped out a little bit in the looks. Do any of these have an adjustable brake lever? Anybody?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
BMW, KTM.
KTM.
Okay. All right. The Yamaha and the Kawasaki don't. They're trying to save a couple bucks, I guess.
Those extra cylinders.
I hate to be the voice of ergonomics, but the Kawasaki is the worst ergonomically. It doesn't look like it. Looking at the seat, it seems pretty flat, but it's pretty sloped, and it is constantly forcing your private parts right into that fuel tank. And if you try to, scoot back on the fatter part of the seat, you just slide down, and I didn't like that at all for any type of distance riding. Short stuff in the canyon, I mean, it handles well, have no problem with the seating there, but anytime you're going straight for more than 2.5 minutes, problem.
They've kind of gone for the low seat leader at Kawasaki lately, it seems like. But I think you can get an extended reach seat for it that raises up about an inch. Might be a lot better. You should ask them for that next time.
Noted.
The Kawasaki does have a very, very light clutch pull. And for the target market these bikes are kind of aimed at, newer-ish riders, a light clutch pull may be underrated, but that's pretty nice to have. The downside of that is you have a hard time kind of feeling out where that engagement point is.
There's no friction zone.
There's no friction zone there, so you're kind of going, I think I'm going. Oh, yeah, now I'm going. So it's a double-edged sword, but if you're just learning the ropes and starting out, having a light clutch pull like the Z400 has is it's a pretty nice thing to have, and it's a good skill to build up once you move up to some other bike.
It's got that really light clutch pull. It doesn't make a ton of power just, as it builds up into the rev range. So for a beginner rider, it's also got the low seat height. So this is kind of a really good package for a new rider, or if you're experienced, you'll be revving the bike out a little bit higher into the meat of its power. So it kind of becomes probably a pretty good bike to learn on and then grow with, because as you get more comfortable and you start revving it out a little bit more, then you're getting into that 43, 44 horsepower. So I think that's kind of a cool, aspect of it.
I gotta say too, on the engine front, the power is great. Makes a lot of power for this category of motorcycles. But oh my goodness, the first thing I would do to that thing is put a pipe on it, because it sounds like a sewing machine when you really get on it. And I'm not usually the first guy to put a pipe on a bike right off the bat, but man, oh man, it's like, talk about lulling someone to sleep with how boring it sounds. Like this power is great, but man, am I bored with it.
But speaking of boring though, I think if that was your first bike, I think that bike could last quite a while. Like, I think you can get a lot of mileage out of a bike like that, because for a beginner, it doesn't have a lot of poop down low, right? It's not pulling you very hard, so it's non-scary. But for an experienced rider who's not afraid to get up on the boil above 10,000 or 12,000, where the thing really comes alive, if you're riding these things hard, or riding that bike hard in the canyons or anywhere, it feels like a sport bike. It feels, out of all these bikes, I think it feels most like a legitimate sport bike. It's got that planted feeling on its side, and because you're winding it out, it goes well. I really enjoyed riding it hard.
Yeah.
Riding it soft, it's kind of flaccid down low in this city, and that bite point's kind of weird, but
yeah, it feels like the suspension's pretty sporty, huh? Like the rear shock keeps the nose down. It feels like it carves pretty good.
Yeah, once you get used to the ergonomics and you kind of acclimate to it, once you're moving it, I felt really comfortable on it.
Might be the sportiest of the bunch, or close to it. So that brings us to the number 2, I think, doesn't it? You did the first 3. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's it going to be? Is it the drum roll? Who finished second? Spark Peelan or KTM Duke 390, which both share the same engine, as we said earlier. Which one did we like the least of those two?
That would be the Husqvarna.
There you go, Tom.
Yeah. Sorry to break the news. If it was a voting on styling and individualism, this guy would have won. For everything here has some sort of similarity. This guy stands out. One of its big fallbacks is going to be the 2.5 gallon tank, which we got 80 miles or so, and started like fretting that we're going to run out of gas. Big things: adjustable suspension on this guy, up on just clickers right on top of each fork leg. One's compression, one's rebound, and it has a quick
auto
shifter.
blipper.
Yep, which is awesome. Even on a small CC bike like this, I mean, it's awesome to have. So, and if I'm right, correct me, this is actually priced less than the KTM?
Correct, yeah.
So you're getting technology that should make this a more expensive motorcycle, but it's not. So, the seating position is a little planky. You're sitting up a little high, kind of dirt bike-esque.
I mean, and that seat height, I think, is another, it's like if you want a stylish bike to get around town and maybe do some fire roads because you got some knobbies on there, That bike has a 33-inch seat height, so we're talking like 30s, I think, with the Kawasaki. So that its seat height is quite a bit taller than the others, but it's so cool, and the motor is punchy and fun. I like it. I dig it.
Right. I mean, the big difference, just one's branded KTM, one's branded Husky, right, for the most part.
But there was like a 2 horsepower, 2 pound-feet of torque difference between those two. But
Yeah.
you know,
I can make that time up with the quick shifter on this.
right?
one.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, they're very close the same. The engine's the same, but maybe the air boxes are a little bit different. So the KTM made a couple more horsepower and a couple more pound-feet of torque, but it was very close. And if you see our dyno chart in the video, the trace is kind of up and down like this on both of them. But when you're riding them, you don't feel any of that. The power feels pretty linear and good, and it's pretty good throttle response on those. But the throttle response is pretty good on all these because there's not a lot of power to feed back on when you get back on the gas. So.
Well, I think it should be mentioned too that these are both thumpers.
Yeah.
But you would never guess it. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're down low or if you're at freeway speed droning, to and from. This thing just stays incredibly smooth everywhere. I mean, you don't know you're riding a single. It's really an amazing engine. Either that one or this one.
Yeah, they have the dual counterbalancers in there, and it works great in both of them. But kind of the reason I think the Duke edged out the Husqvarna was kind of in drone mode. The KTM is a little bit smoother, and me and Ty were deciding maybe could be the handlebars, the bar end weights.
The tires.
It might be the tires
For
because
sure.
the Husqvarna has those kind of off-roady Pirellis, and the KTM's got regular 17-inch street rubber.
I think if that thing had street rubber, it might actually outhandle this.
Yeah.
I think it's that close.
The KTM was a little bit better on back roads in the handling department, and we think that's probably down to the tires a little bit. Off-road, the Husqvarna will probably win. Those things will be a little bit drippy on the fire road.
I mean, if the tires were your concern with the Svartpillen, there's also the Vitpillen.
I think it actually has clip-on, so you're definitely in a more sporty position.
Something sort of important, if you're doing a lot of commuting, I took both of these home, and so I had a little bit of a highway jaunt. So I found the Husqvarna a lot twitchier than the KTM on the highway, and I don't know if I'd really want to do a whole ton of commuting on it because it's just so bouncy. It felt like I was being knocked around more than this guy. I don't know if it was a suspension setup, but it felt a lot like I wouldn't want to do a whole ton of highway mileage on this.
That could probably be down to the tires also, in the rain grooves and stuff. And in first place is the KTM Duke 390, which we knew was going to come down to it or the Kawasaki or the Husqvarna, and it did. And I think that the 390 is actually the nicest looking one of the Dukes, which is kind of weird for it being the baby and the least expensive. Like, did the 890 have like matte plastic, like matte orange?
Some on the,
And this is kind of shiny, and it looks better to me, and I like the 390 under the tail section,
White
and the
subframe.
white subframe looks cool. It's got the best instruments with that TFT display. It's pretty sweet.
The proportions are nice. I think in just the package overall, it feels really good. It looks good.
It's a motorcycle I could be happy on, either out doing the canyon carbon or doing the freeway miles. I mean, I think it's the best all-around motorcycle here, bar none, myself, without any modifications. This guy, maybe change the seat a little bit, do something. Kawasaki's not in the equation. So yeah, KTM for me is the best all-arounder.
I put my girlfriend on this last night. We did a quick highway blast. I got on it and twisted the grip, and surprisingly, we were both being tossed back, and it surprised the hell out of both of us that this actually, I mean, it's not the most comfortable thing on earth for a pillion, but if you had to, this 390 is punchy. And one of the fastest guys I know, a racer, this is what he rides, and he kills it in the canyon with this thing. So this is a bike that I think a beginner could get on, feel comfortable with, and any real biker would be super happy to have to keep in the garage. I'd put one of these in my garage for sure.
Yeah, I think the KTM also, that was one of the first bikes that had me start questioning like the terminology that we use with these bikes. And sometimes we're like, oh, these are entry-level motorcycles. But like that was the first one where I was like, this is a lightweight, this is a substantial motorcycle in every way. It's not an entry-level bike. It's a good price, $5,700. I mean, it's the most expensive one here, but overall, that's just a really good motorcycle to ride. It's got pretty good brakes. The suspension's pretty good. You know, it's punchy motor, a lot of fun. The ergonomics are adult sized. You know, you're not all crunched up like these two Japanese machines.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good overall package.
Well, and to be fair, it's lumping the BMW in the same test with that is, you know, unbalanced, you know, because this is more of a beginner's motorcycle. That guy, any one of us could have in the garage and be happy with. I'd be more than happy riding this thing around. Like you said, it's punchy enough, it has enough power, it's comfortable enough. I could own that motorcycle. BMW, not so much.
And that TFT display is super
Yeah,
good.
it's great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of clocks, the Husqvarna, I had a hard time reading the clocks in
Yeah, I
direct
can't
sunlight.
read it all.
Absolutely.
And being black and white, it's not as cool as the KTM. But just I would come around a corner, and when the sun was hitting it properly, it was just reflecting and not the most legible thing.
So yeah, it's not so good to ride a slow bike fast, but a few of these are not that slow for being small engine, little possibly beginner bikes, but a couple of them you don't have to be a beginner to appreciate. It's another win for the Euro bikes, except for the German ones anyway.
Well, before we go, there is something regarding the YouTube commenters that I'm sure they're going to squawk about. We get comments all the time when there's a KTM in the test about how KTMs are tailor-made for moto journalists who like to ride and have fun but never have to maintain their motorcycles. Me personally, I've heard actually pretty decent things about the reliability of the newer generation of the KTM 390 engine. The previous ones were blowing head gaskets for various reasons. I think it was 2017 and up. 390 engines are actually fairly reliable. That said, if any sort of maintenance issues scare you away, maybe because you are a newer rider and you just want to ride and not wrench, I mean, the Kawasaki is going to run all day long, and all you got to do is put gas in it and put air in the tires and not have to worry about it. So something to consider. If you don't care about that and just want to have fun, the KTM and the Husqvarna, I got to get over that, are going to be just the ticket for pure exhilaration. Back to you, John.
KTM 390 Duke wins it, followed hot on the heels by the Husqvarna. They got the same engine. We'll repeat that again. I don't know why, but followed by the Kawasaki Z400. Great bike. Yamaha. That wraps it up. Hope you liked the video. If you didn't, it's Ryan Adams' fault, not mine. Hit the like button if you like it. See you next time with the heavyweight naked bikes, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Cliffhanger.
God willing and the creek don't rise.